Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today, I'm going to talk about Nicholas Jackson. And look, I'm going to pin all of my hopes on Chelsea's finish to the season on Nicholas Jackson. And look, I'm not doing this to be unfair. I'm not doing this with the intention of being hypercritical of the downfall this season of Nicholas Jackson, because let's be honest, Nicholas Jackson had a good start to the season. 9 goals, 5 assists in the Premier League. That ain't that bad. But this all came a long time ago. It's almost a distant memory when we think about the influence that Nicholas Jackson was bringing to the Chelsea team. There was a point around December time, and if you look here, this is the average ratings of the last 12 months of Nicholas Jackson, right? Ended last season really good. Obviously, there's a summer little break there. You got September, October, November, all good. And then December, January, February, we're talking about a serious drop-off. We're going from greens to yellows. And if you know the 6 Things We Learned series, the box series we have here on GBFC, Nicholas Jackson's boxes were also becoming reds, yellows. And look, when you're the striker, doesn't matter what team you play for, whether it's Southampton, who are firmly planted at the bottom of the Premier League right now, when your strikers aren't scoring goals, you are going to be the first in the firing line when it comes to critique, criticism, and reasoning as to why you might not be performing as well as you would like to in the Premier League or in any league, in any competition. If your striker's not scoring, you're more likely to have issues with not being where you want to be than if he is scoring. So, Nicholas Jackson, I think rightly so, was coming in for serious criticism. And last season, the big criticism with Jackson, despite not being bad, and I think this is always the caveat I want to add in here with Jackson, even in his first season, he wasn't bad, but there was so many moments where you know it, I know it, he should have scored this, he should have scored that, and the numbers that we saw last season from Jackson should have been so much better than they actually were. And look, if we actually look at him last season, if I bring it up here now, 14 Premier League goals, 5 assists in 35 games, 17 goals overall in 44. For a first season in the Premier League, and what, he was 22 for the most of last season? That isn't all that bad whatsoever. I sit here on this channel saying a lot about Chelsea need to buy players that are a bit older. We need to get some experience. We're buying too many youngsters. And look, when we think about what is coming this summer, I want to bring up this article here because this shows exactly what I'm talking about. This summer, Chelsea have got £150 million worth of players joining and actually coming into the team. Paez, Esteval, Penders, Mamadou Sarr, and then obviously you got Quenda, Isugo. So many youngsters are still to come into this Chelsea squad. Nicholas Jackson, the longer he stays at Chelsea and he's the recognised striker, he becomes, whether we agree with it or not, he actually becomes one of the more experienced players in the side. So there is a lot of question marks around Nicholas Jackson, predominantly because of this. The fact that we go into December and this drop-off, I know 7.3 to 6.8, this is just a visual representation to show you what happened with Nicholas Jackson, because fundamentally he just stopped scoring goals, didn't he? And then Chelsea stopped scoring goals. We stopped winning matches. But at the same time, we're not just going to blame it all on Nicholas Jackson too. Cole Palmer, not as effective. But we also need to remember Palmer was still creating a lot of chances. And even before Nicholas Jackson was injured, we saw the misses and the inconsistency in front of goal coming straight back into Nicholas Jackson's game. And look, just because you have a good start to the season, it doesn't mean that you've fully grown into a more clinical striker. And earlier on this season, I was even saying on this channel, Jackson is doing it now because he was. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans and football fans in general, because of this whole critiquing one another and flip-flopping and you're too negative, because of all of these ideas that people have of another, I think we sometimes just miss the facts, right? And like I said at the start of this video, when your striker isn't scoring, the chances are your team isn't performing as well as they would want to. So Nicholas Jackson, if he is serious about making it long-term as Chelsea's striker, this summer, regardless of what you believe about who the striker's going to be, whether it's Osimhen, Gyökeres, Liam Delap, whoever it may be, Jackson knows that this summer Chelsea are investing in a striker. And that isn't just because of his underperformance. It's because we flipping need numbers. Mark Guiu this season, I don't think was ever bought in with the expectation this year, at least, of being like, all right, well, if something happens to Jackson, at least we've got Mark Guiu. The conversation about Guiu was never that. And then just as he started to play more, it was like, well, it might need to be that, mate, because Nkunku's decided to go AWOL. All of the ability that Nkunku had that made Chelsea buy him in the first place became irrelevant, really. And I think Nkunku probably gets off the hook a lot more than Nicholas Jackson does, because we know that Nkunku was a bad signing when it comes to the profile of manager that he was going to be used under, and the profile of player that all of the managerial changes, tactical changes, new signings, they have not been bought in to get the best out of Christopher Nkunku. We know that. And Nkunku is now one of the most experienced players in the Chelsea squad, and I think it is right for him, for everybody, that Chelsea try and find a solution for Nkunku this summer. But it brings us back to this man right here. And between now and the end of the season, we need to see this again. You see where my cursor is? We need to see that early of the season Nicholas Jackson form. And look, 9 goals and 5 assists, 14 goal involvements in 23 matches. It's not atrocious. But I think we need to identify Maresca. Without having Jackson in the team, obviously he's then got to try and find solutions. But he's not really been able to find a solution, let's be real. Until the Arsenal game, we were looking at Neto and it's like, well, you know, he's making the effort. But we always know that Neto makes the effort, but the end product isn't there. Core, it's not there. It's really not. So Neto as a striker for the rest of the season, I don't think Chelsea can score enough goals. I don't think there's enough potency in the side to get us back into the Champions League. And Nicholas Jackson is, for me, the hope here, because Cole Palmer, we know that the injury and we know the way that Chelsea operate, the injury might be worse than it actually is being led on to be right now, because we don't want there to be more negativity surrounding the club. So we don't hear quite often, in my opinion, the full story about what's actually going on. I think that's the way it is with Mudryk, and I think that's probably the way it could be with Palmer as well. Fingers crossed that Cole Palmer does come back in, because we see combinations there. What Chelsea have lacked in recent games is combinations in the final third. We don't have link-up right now between whoever is playing as the striker and the wingers. I don't think it is a coincidence that Jadon Sancho has also fallen off recently. Whether it is just collectively, I mean, I said this yesterday and people criticised me for even saying this, that maybe it is now we're actually playing too much of the Maresca style of play. And the reason we were scoring goals earlier this season is because we were riding the crest of the wave of what Pochettino left us with at the end of last season. I'm not fully convinced by that. It's just I don't know how Chelsea have become so feeble in front of goal. I don't know how we've just stopped creating anything. You know, I come back and I'm like, are we just disinterested? Do we not care? And I don't think that's the right way of looking at it. I believe it's because we don't have a lot of experience. We don't have leadership in the squad to be like, look, okay, we've got a flipping job to do here and we've got to get back into the Champions League. That's where the club belongs. Listen to the interview. Reece James in the ITV interview talking about how Tuchel's the best manager he's ever worked with because he came in and won Chelsea trophies. Listen to the way Tuchel talks about how he's going to manage England. It is mentality, leadership. That's all that it's going to be to take England to the next level. I can see it happening. So Nicholas Jackson, in my opinion, when he comes back from this injury, I think he needs to look around and be like, right, okay, I have got 9 goals this season. We're not just going to be here and able to rely on Cole Palmer anymore. I am going to fight for the fact that I want to be Chelsea's future striker. Because if we do, which I don't think we will, but if we do go out there and buy your Osimhens of this world, your Victor Gyökeres's, elite strikers that can actually come in and pretty much guarantee Chelsea get better, because we've got a marksman. We've got someone that we can aim for in the box. We've got wingers that can cross, and then we've got someone that can finish it. Then the wingers get better. Like, everything metric-wise gets better if Chelsea have a box presence. And I think Jackson is going to have 2 months here to prove that this guy is the real deal. I've seen enough from Jackson to suggest that in 5 years' time, when we talk about Nicholas Jackson, I think we're going to be talking about a striker or a footballer, a player, because I think he still might end up on the wing. We could be talking about a player that does contribute a lot. He already has. Not to the levels that we need to be where we should be. If Jackson continued into December, January, February, then we're probably talking about still being second, third in the league, and the Champions League isn't still a dream. And obviously we're in the position right now where we're fourth in the league, but it has been going downhill so rapidly with goals drying up and creativity drying up that we're basically now relying on Jackson to come back and do it. And a few months ago, we were like, nah, Jackson's done. We need to buy another striker. Obviously, we didn't do that in January. We know that. But Jackson here, for his own sake in the Chelsea future, has got to come back and absolutely deliver in front of goal here, because we are absolutely desperate for it right now, particularly with Cole Palmer out of the team. Let me know your thoughts here on Jackson, because I still think there's a good player in there. Whether he is at the level to lead Chelsea's line, I think this season and what we saw last season, we know that he kind of needs to have someone pushing him on. I think he needs someone to look up to, not literally, but in terms of that leadership in the team, in terms of that goal-scoring experience over the duration of a season. Anyone can turn up and have good days, but to do it consistently and not let bad form get to you is the next level. That is what makes a top striker a top striker. And look, I think Liam Delap is a likely signing for Chelsea this summer. I don't think we're going to break the wage structure, which we should do, but I don't think we will. So I think Liam Delap will be a player that we probably do bring in from Ipswich. And next season, I strongly expect it to be Jackson and Delap fighting for who's going to be the number one striker. Is there enough between them there that I think that maybe they both get caught up in the flipping heck? We're at Chelsea and we've got to deliver, because they do. They just do. Is it going to be difficult? I don't know. I think Delap brings a lot. I think there's a lot of elements of his game where, like, you could even compare him to a Drogba. But, like, I know that sounds ridiculous, and I know some people are going to rinse me for that. But the way he's physical, gets his body about, could be compared to a Drogba. And I think the way that he's good with the ball at his feet could be compared to a Kane. But, like, these are all if, buts, maybes. Delap's not even in the flipping England first team setup. He's still in the under-21s. You know what I mean? It's not like England are blessed with a load of strikers. So this is Jackson's time. Prove it, mate. Honestly, I'm backing him. I am. If I don't back Jackson, then I don't think we're going to get top four, and there's no point me supporting us for the rest of the flipping season. I'm not as negative as I think a lot of people make it out to be. I am aware of the fact we're fourth in the league right now. We have been missing players. I do think Palmer does get better with Madueke and Jackson around him, but I still don't think these guys are title winners for us. I don't. I've not seen enough of that yet. But Nicholas Jackson to return. I'm excited about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I am genuinely excited. I want him to come back with that early season form again. Let me know your thoughts on Jackson in the comments down below. And I know that when he was still playing, I was rinsing him a lot. And now that he's been out injured, he's almost kind of been like vindicated, because we've been even worse when he's been out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Subscribe if you are new. More GBFC linked in the description. Come on, you Blues.